Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Headley Headspaces, and this headspace is called Generational Differences in Africa's Leadership Direction. Before I get into this very quick headspace called Generational Differences in Africa's Leadership Direction, I want to say thank you to all of my listeners, to everyone who comes to my show, who likes, shares, comments, who donates. I'm very partial to 3 rings and chips and a bit of Bitcoin, and who click the bell notification on my YouTube channel to help my growth of subscribers. I'm trying to get to 3,000. So please do click the bell notification in YouTube and click all. And all of the uploads that I do will be sent directly to you. So let's jump into this. Generational differences in Africa's leadership direction. Now, if anyone thinks about the direction of Africa and the thriving nature of this beautiful continent, most people will think about Ibrahim Traoré, the Sahel Alliance, the leaders in Mali and Niger, and the direction of travel that they're taking. And what they've done is they've completely rejected the Western model of leadership, primarily because it doesn't serve them. And most of the time I'm looking online, I always see stuff about Niger, the Sahel Alliance, but quite a lot of stuff about Ibrahim Traoré. And I want to share something with you in terms of the generational leadership direction of the new leaders in Africa and how they look at things. They are pivoting away from Western ideas, culture, belief systems, financial systems, ways of doing things, and they want to be more self-determining. They don't want to use the systems which have effectively kept their countries in a place of depression. And they are looking at the history of the continent and saying we wish to embrace that. And it didn't start with the transatlantic slave trade. It began way longer than that, because Africa as a continent is billions of years old. So we want to embrace our traditional ways of doing things. And this video I'm going to share with you is from a creator, and he's talking about the good news in terms of Africa's generational leadership direction and how they are looking at traditional methods of medicine and how they can encourage that as opposed to using Western systems of medicine. And I want you to juxtapose that with what's happening in Zimbabwe at the moment, where in Zimbabwe currently, we're going to come to that, the current leader has basically utilized the constitution to give him a 3rd term, which he's not entitled to. And you have got these 2 distinct leadership directions in Africa, and they are creating significant tectonic plate movement on the continent. Let's listen to this first one.
Major breaking news coming from Burkina Faso, and let me tell you, this news is going to create a lot of controversy, especially in Africa. The president of Burkina Faso today was planting trees in Burkina Faso, and these trees are not your ordinary trees. The president of Burkina Faso said that they have started an initiative in which they are going to plant trees in all the districts in Burkina Faso, and these trees are going to be medicinal. This is what the president of Burkina Faso said. If you go to a hospital and you are from Burkina Faso, you will have a choice of using the other drugs or using the cultural drugs coming from those trees. And he even showed a manual in which the trees are on one side and their medicinal use are on the other side. He also said that this one is going to be very, very important because they are targeting a number of trees. But the most important thing is the people of Burkina Faso have to follow the culture of the Africans and never ever leave the culture of Africans, especially when it comes to traditional medicine. From this video that you're seeing up here, the president of Burkina Faso is on the front line of planting these trees, and he has always been a role model. And this is going to cause a lot of controversy because many people do not believe in traditional medicine. What do you think about this? And in your country, do you believe in traditional medicine? Tell us in the comment section.
So for me, this is really important because if you think about how colonization works, you also have to demonize the culture, the people, the value system, the economics, the whole experience needs to be effectively degraded. And this is what Ibrahim Traoré is saying, we're rejecting that. It's not just about taking out your NGOs, taking out your military infrastructure in the country, removing your language in our schools and your education system. It's about embracing and understanding our own heritage and history and the direction of generational leadership in Africa of him. Don't forget, Ibrahim Traoré is the youngest leader in the world. He's a Gen Z leader. I think, is it Gen Z? I think so. And look at how he's moving. Now, juxtapose this with what's happening in Zimbabwe.
Political drama in Zimbabwe is taking a new shape. The country's cabinet has approved a proposal to keep 83-year-old President Emmerson Mnangagwa in power until at least 2030. The draft law also aims to scrap the election of the president by the masses. Instead, members of parliament will choose the president on behalf of the citizens. The cabinet, led by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, took the decision on Tuesday, 10th February. If eventually approved by lawmakers, it will mark the biggest political shift in Zimbabwe since 1987, when the country abandoned its parliamentary system of government and adopted the presidential system during the leadership of Robert Mugabe. Current President Mnangagwa came to power after being elevated from the post of vice president following the removal of Mugabe by the military in 2017. Mnangagwa was later elected in 2018 for his first 5-year term and again in 2023 for his second term. According to the current constitution, he must step down at the end of his tenure in 2028. However, the latest proposed changes seek to extend the presidential term to 7 years, allowing him to remain in power until at least 2030. Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Ziyambi told journalists in Harare that the bill will be sent to Parliament and published in an official gazette, and that there would be a 90-day period of public consultations. Similarly, Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services Minister Jenfan Muswere said the reform would enhance policy continuity and political stability. However, opposition politicians have rejected the proposal, saying any constitutional change must be subjected to a national referendum and vowing to defend the constitution against its capture. A senior opposition figure, Jameson Timber, described the cabinet's approval as politically destabilizing, saying they would challenge the move through legal means. The ruling ZANU-PF party, which has been in power since Zimbabwe's independence from colonial Britain in 1980, first adopted the proposal in October amid internal leadership and wrangling over who is to succeed President Mnangagwa. Some analysts say the draft law is likely to be passed by lawmakers, given the ruling party has the required 2/3 majority in both the Senate and the lower chamber of Parliament, although some say the disputes within the party could pose a challenge.
The interesting thing for me is the pivot towards the Western system to indemnify leaders who are more than 70. I think the tradition of having exceptionally old people in office is kind of like a Western issue as well. If you think about some of the leaders that we have in many of the Western countries, I mean, Trump, he's quite mature. Biden was very mature. You then have, who else in Africa? You've got Tinubu. You've got this chap here. You've got, I think, the guy in Cameroon. He's nearly 90, I think. And it's about not ever changing anything and making sure that you don't embrace the traditional systems of governance. Because, you know, if you've pivoted completely to the Western system, you've got a constitution, you now have an even smaller group of people choosing the government. So you are basically centralizing power into smaller and smaller people's hands. That's the Western model. Yeah, that's the Western model. And if you can see the juxtaposition between what's happening with Ibrahim Traoré and the way he is working, because he is so focused on Africa's youth and Africa as a place of growth, whereas you've got this here, I think his name Magwadwe, if I pronounce that correctly, he is more concerned with indemnifying his position and not having any change in government which could potentially change his own power base. So I just wanted to share that with you. You might want to jump up on the mic and give me your thoughts about what's happening in on the continent at the moment. But I think it's important for us to keep not just our spotlight on Western matters, but also to keep our eye on Africa. Not in that regard, but, eyes facing Africa, should I say. That's probably more appropriate. Anyway, don't forget to like, share and comment. Leave a contribution. That'd be great. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next week. And thank you once again for your listening ears and cut!